which focuses on providing culturally relevant and responsive experiences in computer science and STEM across the K-12 area. I'm from Chicago, which is where I got my start in teaching. My family, I'm from 35 years, excuse me, a child of a 35-year educator, both of my aunts. Our career educators, my uncles, both married teachers. And those little people up there are my pride and joy. Thankfully, they do go home to their parents. I am a proud uncle. That is probably my second title next to coach, which kind of makes me forget my first name every once in a while. Graduated from 2 HBCUs, proud alum, Clark Atlanta University. I did get my start at this. Clark Atlanta University was a reason that Coaching and Culture was formed because I realized how much HBCUs poured into me as an educator and how much of the pedagogy. I think it's interesting to kind of use that word in relationship to college experience, but how it really poured into me as a person. And I realized it could create that same message for my students. So a lot of really what you hear about today is unapologetically HBCU focused, and exactly what you're addressing and hopefully what you provide. I guess people knew what I was talking about, or thought they knew what I was talking about. So we were fortunate enough to be included in one of Forbes magazine for an article to talk about organizations and educators who work to close the digital divide, and also GaETC magazine. So I promise, I don't think I'm finished, I don't. But I guess somebody knows or thinks that I know what I am talking about just a little bit. But from here, I do want to talk to you guys. I'm not a fan of icebreakers. So we do the opposite of that, disqualifier builder, which basically means you just tell me who you are and why you're here. Again, I think it's important to set the tone of why this work is important. So we talk about why computer science integration is important, and why we need to make that effort into putting yet one more thing. Teachers on that 100% on our plate. I do want to give you guys a couple tools to walk away with today. If you do want or are looking for ways into your content, and then I want you guys to go ahead and have an opportunity to ask some questions. All right? Sound good?
Yeah.
All right. So I was going to have you guys go into a panel. I know there are times. So if there's just a couple people, so I'm not the only voice to be here today, but just your name, the grade levels and content areas that you support, and then just answer, when it comes to computer science, I wonder, and at the end of today's session, I want to be able to speak. Okay, so like I said, I have a wonderful slide deck that I planned down to the minute, but I do want to make sure that I be cognizant of those folks that are in the room. So anybody want to tell me who they are, where you're from, what you teach? Maybe HBCU alums in the house, I'm calling y'all first. Leave me up your name, y'all. Go ahead. Okay, so you're in college, all right?
My name is Katie. I teach first and fifth youth instruction as well as a small group for computer science. I have a group club and a second and fourth. But I want to know how to integrate computer science in my future career.
Awesome. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Anything you want to get into that in particular?
I'm working on endorsement for people.
All right, one more.
Arthur Williams, K5 Steve. Really, at the end of the session today, we just had some legislation passed that computer science all through K-12. So really looking for some ideas on how to help my support teachers with being able to integrate this into core area subject matters so that they can meet that requirement.
All right, so that's actually a good. Going the wrong way. All right, so actually, I'm glad that you said that. One of the things that is actually happening right now, and one of the things that has gotten our this work really picked up steam, that a lot of states are doing just that. There's been a lot of legislation passed in the state of Illinois to be exposed to computer science. Now, I do want to go ahead and make sure that we set the tone in saying a little bit of what that computer science is, because I think a lot of times the terminology is used interchangeably, And that's where it becomes a concern. So when we think about computer science, say, okay, I teach ELA, how are kids coding, or how does, or having my students code help or meet my ELA standards? And I think one of the first things we have to say is that computer science, coding is only about this much of what we want kids to get from the computer science standards. Okay, actually the big takeaway from that is what we call computational thinking. It's the problem-solving skills that are related to computer science, that are related to creating digital artifacts and code, which is that skill set, that soft, kind of hard skill set that we want kids to walk away with. In reality, and in my guesstimation, we're going to get to a point with AI and machine learning where a lot of the skills when we talk about the actual writing and the syntax of the code will be automated by the time many of our elementary school students are in the working career force anyway. So again, if you're saying, well, hey, coding is it, I can't figure out, I don't know how to teach coding, it is okay. It is one way to expose students to that experience, but it's not the only. So I like to talk hard figures, right? So we talk about why computer science is important. One of the biggest things that got me into computer science as an educator was the equity piece. So when we talk about the estimated median salary, we're looking at $101,490. One of the things I love about that is there's equitable access to that. So when we talk, what does that mean, coaches? Well, if you guys are realizing Atlanta is slowly but surely becoming the tech hub of the Southeast. We have Google, we have Microsoft, we have a lot of the smaller tech companies, we have a lot of money around innovation. Propel Center, Apple is donating, investing some crazy amount of money to build a computer science center next to Morehouse, Spelman, and Clark Atlanta University. So there's a big push to have these opportunities for students in college and career. So we must be responsible for us as educators to start preparing them for these experiences that await them. The great part about it is that a lot of these companies that are coming in are also offering not only 6 month, 9 month to a year certifications, but also paying young people to get them, which means if college is a financial concern or a financial boundary, that kind of brings that level of equity, or again, allows them to, our kids, those kids who may not be able to, okay, great, to have a seat at the table. So we want to make sure that, again, giving them the tools to be successful for this workforce that they're rapidly coming towards. Also, we talk about, well, kids, I have a kid who doesn't necessarily want to go into computer science at all. What is the benefit from them? So we talk about the soft skills that are gained. We talk about problem solving, working together as a project team, being able to communicate a solution to a problem. How do you decompose problems and break it down? These are all soft skills that we know in the 21st century college and career beneficial all over. So again, there's ways that, again, why this work is important, because again, as teachers are going to be very, and go ahead and say the thing, that we have a lot of things going on. So there's a lot of flash in the pan things that come on and say, hey, kids have to focus on this is the next big thing. But I think in computer science is key. Again, one of the ways to kind of give a little bit of context. When we look at our current K-8, we're in the classroom preparing students for the Industrial Revolution, right? Sitting in 8 hours, sitting in jobs, kind of performing pretty basic tasks over and over again. Look, we saved information days. We knew that the pandemic brought us and showed us the information aids here, but are we really preparing kids in our classrooms for those experiences? Because they need to know how to collaborate, they need to know how to work as a part of these teams. So again, we want to also make sure that we do address the digital divide, the disparity in access to tech for women, minorities, and low-income families. So right now, I think the last time we did research, the last, I think it was something like 3% of all computer scientists or computer engineers across the world are Black women. So again, we talk about 2022, when we're looking at a median salary of $131,000 a year, but only 3% of our young Black women are being exposed or going into pursuing those careers. Also, can't deny the fact that early social CS has proven benefits of academic areas. So if you are an ELA teacher, if you are a math teacher, there's also benefit for that particular benefits that we're seeing in those particular academic areas as well. All right, so now we're getting down into the how. So this all sounds great, but I know if anything like me, you guys have lesson plans due, you are testing, you are in the middle of WBA, you have a small social emotional learning curriculum that You guys got 8 weeks after the semester started. But again, I want to make sure that we give you guys some concrete ways to make this happen. You really don't have to reinvent the wheel. If you guys are fortunate enough to have a media specialist or standalone science class, that's awesome. But it's not necessarily a requirement. All right, so how do we do it? This is pretty much how I found ways, whether it be in the CS classroom, or in teaching or integrating in more core content area. So when we talk about time, and the easiest ways to integrate it into your practice, whether that be math centers, whether that be ELA centers, a lot of the resources we talk about today, there are standard times with connections across different content area standards. So again, a lot of it also is tutorial based. It doesn't require direct instruction. So again, if you have computers, if you have tablets, students are often able to get practice in the during the essential times. One of my favorite integrated is through project-based learning. I've seen whether it be computer science, math, one of the ways kids get the richest. A lot of times you have kids that can go in and add computer science concepts. My 7th grade girls just finished a app design project where they had to create a Shark Tank style situation. So we pulled in ELA, we talked about persuasive writing, we talked about mathematics, they had to go in and plan their budget. For their startup tech company, the computer science piece came in, of course, because an tutorial was video level. So as I was teaching a little bit more of an entrepreneurship piece, in that teacher-led center, the students were actually getting the actual computer science skills through the resources we talked about today.
Do you have
Okay. Again, a lot of that is not teacher-led. So if you're not the expert, thank you, on computer science, that is another benefit, is that again, you don't necessarily need to feel the pressure of having to teach. If you guys are familiar with flipped learning, that is another easy way to bring that strategy into your classrooms as well. All right. Any questions? I'm going to do this PowerPoint for a second. We'll take that as a call from the universe to pause and take questions. Anybody already good? Have any questions so far about what we talked about? No? Okay, so I will talk as a way to use in the sake of time. We talk about the lesson-based tutorials. There are a couple of resources, and again, we talk about computer science instruction that we want to make sure that we tie in. And that, I think sometimes we talk about projects is where we tend to lose some of that robust instruction in computer science coding programming. If you guys are not familiar, code.org is a great resource. There is now comprehensive curriculum from K-12. I will say that it is a great springboard just to get kids those concepts. So again, if you want them to be able to build a model of, say, you're teaching the ocean, if you want them to be able to code and program those things, the way that they can learn how to program would be where I would put those tutorials. So is code.org a full, comprehensive, 100% curriculum start to finish? No. But if you were like me 6 years ago, coming from an HPE background, and now being tasked to teach computer science, they got my kids comfortable enough to be able to create or to have the experience. Right? So again, I want to make sure that if you guys are not into computer science, because one of the things I usually hear from teachers is that, well, coach, I don't know how to code, so how do I go through and even begin to teach my kids? Well, flipped learning is actually a great way for them to access content anyway, and it really does a lot of the job for you. All right. So that would be how. If you were to say, well, how do we get our kids started? One second, I think we got that. You guys see okay there?
Yes.
All right, here we go. Back in business. All right. So as we talked about, code.org would kind of be where I would get started. So if you say, well, hey, coach, where do I get my kids? I want them to kind of get a a little bit of experience. Okay, it's free, it's signed, it sets up with your Google Classroom. There are opportunities for assessment within the program, whether there are, whether the teacher assessed, again, they give you guys an answer key. So my little life hack, this is actually how I learned to code as my kids were learning. I think that vulnerability was huge. Like when I was able to talk to a lot of my fifth graders who were Minecraft geniuses, it definitely was a lot of what I did coming into the classroom. They appreciated it and actually kind of helped build our rapport in our classroom as well. So coding is something, again, it's one of the areas I love because it doesn't require you to be an expert to teach it, okay? Now, second piece I like to do is our integrated coding with CS first. We talked about the tutorial piece. Most of your kids are probably familiar with Scratch. When we talk about computer science, it's generally the instruction tutorial side, and then we have what we call a kind of like sandbox platform. So Google CS first, again, tutorial video based. I like to do a little bit more of the direct instruction with this piece. I let my kids use the videos as a guide in the free program. It does sync up with Google Classroom if you're a Google school like we are. Basically, what it goes through is, and again, I would recommend doing a few lessons with code.org first. Okay, but it doesn't require any computer science experience. So again, one of the things I'm really, really big on is letting teachers know we don't have to be the experts here. Okay, what you will learn is you'll learn how to do a lot of cool things right along with your kids. But even again, if you're not doing a lot of direct instruction in that space, the kids will still be fine. They do get to move through the projects at their own pace. The problem solving tools are all there. They do tell the kids, there's an ability for them to go back and rewatch the videos. There are transcripts where the kids can read the actual closed captions of the videos so they get stuck on a particular part. And if they actually click the transcript, it takes them back to the part of the video where that screenshot is shown. All right, so now the first year, kind of give a little bit of an example. We used a project in fifth grade, my first year as a teacher teaching computer science, and they were able to do that and go through a full video game without really any direct instruction. All right, again, one of the things Coding with Culture is huge about is equitable access. It is free. I know one of the things that access quality computer science STEM is the budget or finance classroom single sign-on. All right, so code.org to recap would be your kind of tutorial, the how they do it, and then code the CS first would be where the kids go in. Now, one of the things to give a more direct drawing is how it attaches to the core areas. Is some of them are based, some of the lessons are even based on concepts. If you're doing writing, we actually did this with, I believe, a fourth grade class. So again, the project is set up. If you want to leave it as is, if you just want to kind of see how your kids react or are able to work with it, but it's also basic enough where you can customize it. So for example, this one here talks about dialogue, characterization, setting. They go through, they storyboard, they actually have to identify those concepts, and then the video shows them how to create, once they identify the dialogue or some of the character traits, now how to represent that digitally. And that's when the tutorials come in. It does also talk about, it ties into computer science here in Georgia. And it talks about how the user interacts or user interacts with a computer. Again, kind of a one-stop shop to getting a lot of these concepts where your kids are experiencing it, but you're not necessarily having to teach it explicitly. Okay? Now, when we, the first year we did this, we did it with I said the fourth grade English class, they just kind of did a generic characterization class. Now for this one, we took it a little bit a step further. We pulled in the fourth grade math teacher, and we talked about ELA, again, characterization. This is the one we actually did, and we talked about representation of video games as well. So it was a big push on African-based superheroes, and our students did a research project on some of the African deities. And then again, tying in the initial part that we did, learning about characterization, dialogue, and then basic coding concepts. They took those and amped up a little bit. They chose one of the African gods and goddesses that had to go through the same storyboarding concept, creating a video game, creating, and then again, no direct coding. That is where we allow the videos to come in. So again, we're still seeing the computer science concepts. And again, even outside of just the actual coding platform, they're having to take a big problem and break it down into small steps, which is computational thinking. So they're getting the coding, but they're also getting a lot of those soft skills around computational thinking, just in the process of the project. All right, any questions on CS first?
You mentioned that aligns with your standards. Is there, I'm looking on the site now, is there a place where they list like correlation with national or state standards?
I know that we're working on that with Georgia Tech. They're, it's actually one of the projects we're working on. There should be a document coming out this year that aligns it directly to our standards of excellence. The computer science ones specifically, ours are loosely based on the ISTE standards, so I've been able to kind of tweak it a little bit just in my own plan, but there should actually be a document out pretty soon. Okay. All right. So to kind of shift gears a little bit, I do want to go back to know a lot of that. So, well, hey, it's not really all about coding, but here's all the great coding things. So I did want to leave you guys with an example. This is a lesson we do with our kindergarten and first grade students. And again, we talk a lot about computational thinking. All right. So I'm a big believer that a lot of times we really want kids to understand coding. One of my first aversions to it as a teacher was, it's a video game. It's a game. And I'll be very honest with you. My very first year, I thought I had worked out. I'm like, I have all these kids and all signed up for this pathway. And look, we're closing the digital divide. We've done all the Angry Birds and all the Minecraft. And my kids came back to see me maybe about, I don't even think it's Thanksgiving break, y'all. They're like, oh, how's computer science? I tried. Well, that's okay. So we closed the divide now. We're opening it back up because it wasn't fun. Okay. And the reality is a lot of the code.org is a very small, it's the springboard. We cannot over gamify or make everything beautiful about computer science. It has to be hard. We're not doing our kids any favors by getting them into this and letting them think that it's always going to be snapping these blocks together time and time again. So a good part, as I was kind of going through my scoping sequence, is a big part of my kids' computer science experiments are off the computer. And they're like, wait a minute, it's a computer class, why am I not? So this lesson here, again, we talk about getting kids to think computation. So the big one here, we talked about HBCU banners. I don't know if you guys have ever seen an HBCU banner before. I'll show you anyone. All right, it's a great thing. If not, come on down. Now, CAE's homecoming, we got to play it for you. But the great part, but also really getting kids to kind of see that there's ways to get the benefits from coding without actually having to do it. So one of the biggest concepts when we talk about why we want kids to learn about computer science and to think and problem solve like computers is what we call creating algorithms, right? And that basically tells kids to be able to give a list of instructions that are in sequence. Okay, I'm sure the LATs, math teaching sequence, again, it's some terms we get across curriculum. But also how to decompose the problem. So the way that we frame this lesson is, well, these band directors are showing you a big thing where they watch a halftime performance. Look at these really, really cool shapes they're creating. How do you think they do this? And then we say, well, hey, somebody has to give you direction. So this is one person. And then we talk about women in STEAM careers because there's, of course, a Black female band director. Well, how do you think she does her job? How do you think she might think like a computer to create these really, really cool final projects, right? So take it from the top, decompose to reverse engineering. The way that we tie into the computer concepts is that you teach kids that what takes an algorithm, which are people instructions, into a program, which are computer instructions, is by putting it or decoding or programming it into a language that a computer can understand. So before my kids ever got onto Angry Birds, I realized putting in this lesson was important first, because if not, I don't realize that these arrows that I'm putting into this Angry Birds are a video game, right? I don't realize that I'm not supposed to be just consuming the technology. I'm actually supposed to be getting a little bit of feedback or creating. So again, doing the work, kind of laying the foundation is a fun way to do it, because the kids definitely get buy into the exciting performance aspects of the game. But again, a simple way to teach kids, number one, the idea of decomposition, but also into writing, or into the basics, the building blocks of how code, the syntax of coding. And again, this is all without being online. So the idea is to give them the task, each level, or X represents a different section of the band, okay? And so the course goes through, because we're busy with the band, so we have to point it out a few times, whole group. But again, getting them just to think about creating a larger piece. Now, of course, I wouldn't print these for my children who could not read yet, but I wanted to kind of make it a little bit, so again, if you're thinking about ways to do this, because differentiated is really what necessarily has to be a kindergarten first grade lesson. So we put the kids in groups, we tell them, okay, well, their task is to write this algorithm to create the band formations on the next slide. Okay, so again, going back to decomposition, another concept when we talk about why computational thinking is important. We do want to give kids some of the, or make it as close to programming as possible, so we do bring up one of the ways we stress or to get them to focus on sequencing. Okay, and also writing clear directions, which is a huge part when kids learn how to code because they like to think like humans do. So getting kids to again, say, we can't look at the computer knows which means 2 steps unless you say it. All right. So this would be more kind of the student-facing document. Again, we just give them a sequence of, excuse me, for an example, final band formation here. Okay. And then you guys saw on the slide, we did a kind of like a translation of what the code may mean. Now, what I do, also one of the bigger skills that we, one of the skills we hope for kids to get from computational thinking or exposure to it is collaboration. So I would definitely recommend these be done in, or if you have kids work on projects, if you have kids do anything computer science related, you do want them to work together as much as possible. Okay. I know sometimes for teachers like me that are very type A, it can be a little noisy, which you all deep breath work is worth it. Because again, collaborating around computing is one of those things we talk about why this is important. Again, you think about adding one thing into our schedule, why this may be the thing is important. All right. Now, with all of these resources, we actually have a wakelet that we are tweaking just a little bit. So I will send this out. I know that we have our information. So you guys are once right on our social media as well. Email us, I'll make sure we send that wakelet out. That should be up again by today. So all these resources we'll provide for you guys. And that you'll have, we hopefully we should have that QR code that we set for today. And I think the last thing I'm going to share with you guys was a lesson we did here on, this is another event-based program. Actually, we work with this is with a research lesson. So they were working on online research. And one of the things that, if you guys ever call technology, a lot of times if you were in school, like I was first year, I came in, anything computer related was expected to be handled in that classroom. Whether it was digital citizenship, whether it was coding, whether it was more of digital literacy. But again, this is an example of how we kind of created all of that into a project-based learning in that situation as well. All right. So again, we did a lesson where kids actually went in, we talked about the importance of using credible. We actually built out, and where the computer science piece came in again, during the tutorial, this focused a lot on, for those of you all who are familiar with coding, with event-based programs. So we went and did the code.org tutorials, but then as they were going through, they were choosing, again, with our classroom, most things are HBC focused. We had to go in using credible resources, citing sources, and then doing background research to create a digital campus tour using Scratch. So when I think the website I showed you guys before, the code CS First, the platform that the kids build in is Scratch. So when they go in, even if they don't necessarily do the tutorials, they go into a blank code. So again, you have kids that are more experienced. They can technically start out, again, let's say they're all doing the lesson on the ocean I brought up a little bit earlier. Your kids that may not have any experience in this particular area, and you can set them here, they'll be ready to go. So we talked about that differentiation piece. That's there also, again, that's there as well. Now, with this, the cool thing that I like is that with Scratch, for those of you all that may have used it before, this gives you a teacher-protected version. So Scratch is an open platform, it's free for anyone to use, which for me as a teacher made me very nervous, because it also has chatting discussion forums. Kids can go in and create games and post them and share them. This gives you a teacher-controlled version of that. So again, the kids don't have access, and you have to give them a code to join. If you have time, I'll let you guys check that out. It also links it to Google Classroom. So if you're like me, and you have said, please do not turn any more blank assignments into me, they can actually select it to the actual lesson. So this will attach it to, as long as the teacher, if you set the project in, now these are the ones that Google gives you, but like we did our assignment HBCU, as long as I put that in as an assignment, once the kids sign in with our Google Classroom sign-in, they can automatically attach their final project to our Google Classroom. All right. And again, if you guys, and I do all say you all have your laptops, but they're also pretty much all different types of subjects as well. So it's not just ELA and math. All right. All right. So if you guys want, I do want you all to get a chance to see the site. If you guys go to see us first with google.com, and it's also to be on our, to be here soon, hopefully, but this will be our class code. You can go in if you want to, go in once in a while. I'll take a couple minutes for questions so we can get those answers as well. But in case you were interested, I'd be able to show this to you guys. You can see it. If you join our class, you'll be able to see it from the student perspective. But you can also, if you want to join as a teacher, you can plan on using with your students, or if you want to see it first, you do have the ability to toggle back and forth between your teacher and student account. All right. Yeah, it is Z as in zebra, G, RJ 22. Z is in zebra, G, R, J is in Joseph, and then 22.
Did you say CR first?
Z as in zebra.
Yeah, on the website.
Oh, CS first, sorry. CS first with Google.
CS first.
Mm-hmm. It's like the initials of computer science, yeah. And like I said, if you can't see, I will send this out to you guys in the week. It'll be up on GR. You'll create it. So now, and the reason I didn't want you guys to see that as teachers also, so there's two different options. When you guys go in right now, your students can create a, not a good school, they can create a username and password, which is not, only you as a teacher will be able to see that for the Privacy Act law, or you can go in with your Google account. Okay, if you do want to use it for Google Classroom, you have to use the sign in.
Look, that's the question we're going to ask. If kids have to use a single sign-on in our district has kids, have you used this before?
Never mind.
Scratch shares information.
It's not, so that's, it's not Scratch, it's a platform of Scratch, but it's controlled from Google. So that's why we don't use regular Scratch, but this, they have, this, in other words, this doesn't give them any access to any of the, like, they don't, the only thing they see that is of Scratch is that the actual coding is done. So they can't, in other, like their accounts here don't sign into Scratch.
Okay, do you know if, since it works with the classroom, if it is the link to ClassLink or one of the other platform types?
If it goes through Google Classroom, yes, that's only, I mean, well, our kids have always signed up through, just their Google Classroom, like we have an additional with it. Yeah, but if, now I'm assuming though, if you're other, but if it applied digital skills, or those things that Google uses link up, it should.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Are you able to create programs? Like you were talking about the HBCU program you did, how did you create that?
So in Scratch, I just created the actual project itself. Right, so I just made it so in Scratch, the kids created Scratch. So only thing I created was the Google slide on the instructions.
So you know when you were in
So when you create a lesson, once you create a lesson in the classroom, you're getting sent to that, they'll be able to see, so you create all of your assignments that are linked to Google CS first will become an option. Mhm. I'm sorry, the classroom is not working?
No, it's
Did you all click create an account? I think that might be what you have to do first.
I have an account.
If you're getting because it may be that you're not sending it to my Google Classroom, that might be, you may have to click the create account. Yeah. If you ever see it, you ever see this first account either?
Yeah, I can't.
All right, so yeah, it may require you, because I didn't sync it up in the classroom to do it, with the. So you created a new email and password? The problem is that it's not, because you guys aren't in a Google Classroom coding the culture, but that's what we give students. So if you want, they can go in and create a new account with that way. They can't use the sign in Google, I think, unless they're able to, unless they're in Google Classroom. All right, any more questions on that, please?
So, you talked about creating like algorithms and sequence. I'm curious about things that would otherwise be taught that they could move in. I mean, teaching computer science at high school level, it's super helpful when my students have read Plato and Aristotle, because that concept of like, what is an object? Is it an instantiation of, a ethereal thing? That's very much like a class, whereas Aristotle, it's a matter that composes it, it's very much like an object. And so, or the kids who have like a rhetoric speech and don't call logical fallacies, when they hear Boolean terms and I'm showing hands and chords, they're all equipped with that. And the kids who do well in word problems and math are better. Are there any recommendations like that that I work with our instructional coaches and administration can say, like, how can we be more STEM ready to not add sequence and algorithms, but just highlight opportunities to cross-pollinate knowledge of things that are already in language arts and math and science.
Okay, so what I would say is a couple of resources. So for those that kind of the standalone that you're looking for, there are more, I know code.org does a really good job with their hour code. They come out with something called, I believe it's CS. It's a series of kind of like, not only exposure to like STEM careers, but to concept or unplugged activities and concept solutions, which you ask about. You want to talk about Booleans or even variables, or like just ways for kids to get access to those concepts. And also remember that a lot of the curriculum, even tutorial based, have been taught to the delegate. So if you wanted to focus just on conditions or just on algorithms, you can really just have them work on, and that's what how we use that. I would have here for kids to just have working on that specifically. Probably they're looking for more robust, but the good thing about it is there's so many different entry points, depending on how deep you want to get into it. Because I know we get divided for the on time, and I think that was to get I was still in Maryland, that was like fourth and fifth grade. I want to say, man, just focus on it. Not even talk about the concept.
Maybe laying out the curriculum and sort of the prerequisite requirements. Like, our school has dropped basic curriculum, base 2, base 4, whatever, out of the 7th grade math curriculum, and only later they realized, oh wait, that affects computer science. And they kind of like mapped out what we love science major, what things should be.
You're starting to see a lot more of that work now. Computer Science Teachers Association across the country. There have been a lot of vertical planning from colleges down through elementary school to kind of address some of those things. I know that standard speaking is kind of where they're going first and looking at ways like across the state now that a lot of them have these mandates. They're starting to actually like connect the dots. Yeah, I mean, it's a work in progress. All right, any other questions? Yes.
At the beginning of your presentation, you mentioned that you had some students create apps. What platform did you use for
I'm
creating
glad you asked. So we actually, this year, our app, we use a couple different things. So we kind of just, part of our computer science teaching concept has been, learning best practices. We started out with code.org, so again, kind of getting that phrase to reach across and look at different resources. The one that I would highly recommend, the one that has allowed our kids to get the most differentiated experience would be Manner. There's a platform here,
What's it called?
Manner, M-A-D, like the word mad, and then learn. Now, I love it because for my kids that are computer science heavy, it keeps them engaged enough, it's challenging enough, the curriculum, but it really gives them an opportunity to think about it from the design perspective. And the reason I think that's important, to go back to our point earlier, is that every kid is not going to be coding. So what Mad Learn allowed us to do was to take the kids and then again, give them that real life project team. So if you are more, creative, you see the thing visually, it allows us to step into the shoes of a, UX or user experience designer. Realizing their input in that eye is just as important as the kid who, syntax line on line. So I think it's been the one that also is not scary for kids. A lot of the ones, and they're like, oh yeah, and it's like it's beautiful the first week, and the next week, the kids don't do it. So yeah, it's been the one I use most often, and yeah, especially if you're talking about a range of computer science ability. Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. There are grants, I believe, I'm almost sure. We paid for it through, and the most of I used it at, or I used it at the Title I. This year I got my principal. And the thing is, one of the things I will say for Maryland, like me a lot of times, we're kind of pushing for funds. It proves it. Like when I was able to bring our stakeholders in for them to see the kids' final project, the next time we have a problem. But then when they're here, very personable. I love them. They love you too. They're very nice people. I will ask, because one thing they're still grassroots enough, I know that they work with schools. I mean, Georgia based. Yeah. Like, so we take like, I did the project leading the way training, and project leading the way does they have their app, their builder for app is Minecraft. No, it's the Microsoft version of their coding app.
MIT.
It was awesome. It was killing me. So that was like, I was losing them from this exposure because they kind of required them to jump in too quick for me as a teacher, whereas math allowed me to push my kids and the ones who were ready to go, but allowed me to do more small groups. Like, I mean, it does cost, but to me, it's been one of the ones I'm like, yeah, I can afford it. All right, anybody else?
Can you talk about what your role as a teacher facilitator looks like? Are you tutorial videos, things like that?
So this has actually been has been my role. I am old, so I've been doing this for a while, so I still think there's merit to direct instruction. So fortunately, I am in a space where I can get to see the kids computer science wise, and my principals have been able to, especially principals very open, my schedule, so I can do the direct instruction. But what I had to realize too, though, is that the kids get it. So when I was still doing the flip learning, I think one of the things I made the biggest mistake at first was forgetting that there still has to be a catch point. So even if the video comes first, like just to even have that teacher student say, hey, everybody wants to come by, and for a lot of my kids, I realized maybe success, they need to come compete with their video to me. This is kind of that like, so I would say not 100%. I know a lot of like, oh, you never teach again. You just walk in and give it. I'm like, it sounds good, but I think also too is finding that perfect balance because I think just being realistic, that's why we lose a lot of those kids that are like, I want a little bit more, but yeah, it works. I know just to try to give the folks that different amount of time and things like that. If there's a way for you to still have, even like, hey, tell me what you got on that video, just to, But yeah, for me, I still have to correct it. It was, that was driving me nuts. I feel like I'm doing so, yeah, this is finding the balance. All right, y'all. Well, thank you for coming hang out with me. I know I have my web time on the web. I actually my nephew. I'm paying way too much money. But anyway, I go to college, right? So he will have that later to me hopefully today, and then we'll just post it to our speaker page. All right. Thank you. I appreciate you. I'm going to.
Are you gonna remain in here? You wanna keep this plugged up?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's gonna be, I think they're gonna post it onto our, we have download the app. Yeah. So I think on my feature, and if not, you should check culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, now that link is on there, so the wiki doesn't show up there, I'll post all this on the website. Yes. I was waiting for you. Where are you sitting? You can call that. Come back and fight. It's like, oh, we have training. Oh, all right, y'all. Back to being around 7:30. All right, y'all. See y'all 8:10. I just have to give you so this, but then it's more drawn out because the one for I think the same on Thursday. Okay. That was going to be years. All right. For the bigger kids, that one I actually really great. Okay. I want to say that he was involved with me. That's the one that was.
Yes. So, State Department just launched, if you guys have heard about it.
GaETC, that would be a
GaETC, Georgia,
App
Challenge. And so each district can participate and they're, winners and all kinds of fun stuff. And yes, those apps are so we submitted to the Congressional App Challenge, but it's one of the partners with
I kept one. I was like, it's not called John Lewis Challenge.
That was great. Thank you. Thank you. Well, congressional, yes, but definitely more. So you're looking at the congressional app, which was yesterday. But when you get your kids started, when you next year, the Georgia, there's a Georgia app challenge, and I don't know why that's not coming up. It's made up.
I'm glad this is actually happening. Like all of the build up. We had
Where do you teach?
something.
Okay, and you are an
But the kids like, of course, it's really interesting.
oh, here, I can send it.
And they're her pictures of a I usually walk around, which is like an extreme northwest Georgia. Yes, absolutely. Now you involved with their RC station? So yes, the one that's closer. Yes, exactly. Yeah, their president, yes, she came down for our thing in Georgia. Yes, the size
I had signed up for that and I fully intended to be there, and just life got in the way that weekend. Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's so good meeting you.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice to meet you as well.
I'm gonna go. Are you around for all 3 days?
I'll be here all 3 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll have to make sure we catch up before you go. I'm gonna try to grab some.
Yeah.
Next session.
Hey, come on now.
Check that out. And, okay, good, perfect. We're with Mapper, so we're talking about Mapper. So we're with part of Mapper.
Yes, hi.
And we'd love to help work with. I know some folks mentioned districts across the state. Love to see if we can help.
That's why I'm in here. Trying to figure
Right,
out.
all the resources, all the things. You're looking at this. Auntie, would you have a little postcard that I can grab for you? Would it give you my card?
Okay, I'll leave the rest for later.
I don't think we're blasting it feels like being wrong to do.
That's the audience, I know.